Okay, greetings and welcome. It is Tuesday, April 22nd of 2025. This is the Eccentric Perspective. I am your host, Blake Wally. Welcome. Greetings. After weird holiday weekend as Easter fell on the same day as 420. Interesting merging of holidays. I don't know when that'll ever happen again, but interesting. Celebrated. Hope everybody had a delightful time. Now, welcome back. Back to business. Happy spring. I think I'm already getting the allergies already. Not good, but hopefully that'll pass soon. And, well, got a lot of interesting stuff in the news. I don't know if there's really a particular big headline story. Kind of tough to pick from, but certainly a variety. So here's the thumbnail for today. Of course, we'll cover Pope Francis, the passed away. I guess we'll call it the new era of confusion. I didn't have enough room on there, but the elites changing of the guard. So we're gonna have to replace Pope Francis. And they're going to replace Klaus Schwab as stepping down from the World Economic Forum. I think he's going to be replaced with another elitist. Or perhaps this is all just another trap. A couple interesting angles on this. Of course, any of you guys out there listening want to contribute? Maybe I missed something. Want to share something with the rest of the class, feel free to drop a line or a link in the chat, and we'll get that incorporated into the show somehow. But let's run actually, let me get to the headlines. What else do we have? So, is the legacy of Pope Francis? Is it Catholic Church confusion? And as the new World Economic Forum director, could he be worse than Klaus Schwab? And if Iran disbands nuclear weapons, will Israel follow suit? Interesting. Democrats, did they make a big mistake by embracing the Maryland man? And Americans, do they deserve reparations from illegal immigration? And birthright citizenship, is that the biggest scam in U.S. history? Or being liberal and being woke, are they two different things? And should Trump authorize a new investigation into 9/11? Okay, well, that is what I have on tap. So we'll run an intro and we'll get started on the other side. And I'll be here for the next 60 or 90 minutes. We shall see. Okay, let's roll. All right, and we're back, and happy Easter again, including from Trump. Maybe I should have used this on my thumbnail. This is pretty hilarious. Trump wishing happy Easter to everybody, including all of the radical left lunatics, Joe Biden, and whoever the person was that was running his auto pen. So, nice moment there. But that was in the past. Let's move forward. And then we have the crazy news. And maybe it's unclear. Did Pope Francis, did he actually pass away on Easter? And maybe they just didn't want to announce it on that day, and then maybe he died after. I guess I'm not really sure. That'd be kind of weird to have the Pope die on a major Catholic holiday. But I guess strange things have happened. But either way, he's gone, 88 years old. We've all been bracing for that. Not that I pay that much attention to what Pope Francis does, but sometimes he puts out some controversial opinions. He was a controversial pope and a leader for the Catholic Church for quite a while. So it was he was the Jesuit and the Argentinian-born Catholic leader who helped liberalize the church over his 12 years as the head of the Vatican passed away. So whether it's Easter Monday or Sunday, who knows? Then there's the time change. Well, what have you. But anyway, dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis. I'm not sure who's giving this quote. Oh, it's just the Vatican General Statement. So he taught us to live the values of the gospel with faithfulness, courage, and universal love, especially for the poorest and most marginalized. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to infinite merciful love of God, one and triune. Okay, well, there you go. It's 88, had health issues, guess, with bronchitis and pneumonia and a stroke and a coma. Doesn't sound fun, but it's all over. You know, people are critical. I don't know what to make of this. I don't want to call it positive or negative. I was baptized Catholic, but I'm not really practicing so much. But interesting. Well, it's certainly a huge deal, and for some, especially. But I mean, I guess you could say the Catholic Church has lost a bit of its power over the years. It's not quite what it used to be. It used to kind of just dominate Europe, and then you had so much controversy whether people should listen to the king or should they listen to the man of God. So that always became was interesting power struggles throughout Europe over the generations. And anyway, so what else do we want to jump into? But some were very critical, saying the legacy of Pope Francis is chaos, confusion, and division in the Catholic Church was not loved by everybody. Are any of them? Maybe Pope John Paul. Otherwise, they've all been controversial to some extent, I'm sure. I don't know what to say particularly. Let's get to let me just summarize. We'll just zip to the end here. I'll skip over most of the details, but this author certainly has something to say here. Daniel Davidson at the Federalist, a senior editor. He says, Pope Francis opened up questions that previously were closed, and in so doing created divisions and confusion that will require, at some future point, definitive clarification and decision. And perhaps these questions will have to be settled by an ecumenical council tasked with cleaning up the mess Francis made. Well, not speaking so highly of him. But for now, as the cardinals of the Catholic Church gather in Rome for a conclave to select Francis's successor, a cloud of uncertainty, even of dread, hangs over the Holy See. That's the true legacy of Pope Francis, or at least in John Daniel Davidson's opinion. But yeah, interesting, a controversial guy. Some people called him woke. But yeah, took interesting stances on both sides. Here's another one. The death of Pope Francis is the final chapter in one of the most divisive and destructive papacies in modern church history. So, yeah, that's where I came up with several people saying it's confusion. Not that I take these kind of old world thinkers too seriously, but certainly a huge story. And this certainly is an influential position, a powerful position, and they're going to have to fill it with somebody else. And who will they choose? I guess that'll be more interesting once they kind of narrow down who the top candidates are. You can go over all the pros and cons of what that might mean. Well, Roger Stone also critical, responding to this thread, saying, since God is perfect, he will judge Francis perfectly, which means Francis burns in hell. He's going to burn in hell because he was a force for evil. His papacy was never legitimate to begin with. So, certainly people more opinionated than I. But I respect that. What do I know? I can't defend or deny. Well, I asked Grok about it, though. I said, Grok, can you give me 5 pros and cons summarizing the greatest triumphs and failures? Well, he had an advocacy for the poor, and he emphasized social justice, which made him the woke pope, championing marginalized communities and critiquing economic inequality, which I can agree with to some extent, unless he's just, over like blanket criticizing capitalism. I don't think is a good thing. Again, he's made controversial statements. I just don't know if the position holds the power that it used to. Well, and then they brought up climate change, global action influencing an environmental discourse. Yeah, that's another thing I would laugh at. Not a big believer in that, or using it to control humanity. Well, let's see. Promoted unity with other religions. Pushed for Vatican financial transparency, which is good. Addressing the long-standing issues of corruption and bureaucracy. And he was adopted a humble, approachable style. I guess that's what endeared him in the beginning, at least. But there are also some cons or some criticisms for his slow or inadequate responses to the abuse cases the Catholic Church is well known for, damaging trust. And I guess he had ambiguity in his teachings, like on moral issues, have confused Catholics and fueled division, consolidating authorities, sidelining critics, bypassing traditional Vatican processes, alienating some clergy, this Jesuit outsider shaking things up. Yes, an agreement on bishop appointments, progressive leanings, deepening rifts between liberals and conservative Catholics, challenging the church unity. Well, there you have it. I think lined up the pros and cons. A lot of the leftists are attacking J.D. Vance as though he was the harbinger of death. He showed up in his yellow tie, the symbolism, sending a message before he ended the era. No, I don't believe any of that. He was 88 and he was battling severe illness for a long time, including a double pneumonia. So, but it's interesting that Vance actually got to visit with the Pope on Easter just hours before he was smothered with a pillow by J.D. Vance. Well, not quite. No. But anyway, let's see. Yeah, there are some conspiracies going out. So the Pope's last public appearance was with Vance, and Vance was wearing a yellow tie. If you know, you know. So I asked Grok about it just for clarification. Says the historical, and I don't know if Grok is on point with this either. It's just an interesting perspective, I suppose. The historical yellow flag of quarantine, implying a hidden message about disease or isolation, although it's speculative and not directly supported by evidence. So that's how J.D. Vance spent his 420. That's an interesting field trip. Meeting with the Pope on Easter. Anyway, in Catholic tradition, yellow, often gold, during Easter symbolizes divine glory and Christ's resurrection. Okay. Anyway, it's a misinterpretation of the tie's significance. I would lean towards that. But you never know. A lot of people see the symbols. That might be a little bit of a reach, though. It's all good. Just thought it was interesting. Note. Okay, well, I think that's about all I've got on the passing of Pope Francis. Okay, so let's move on. What's number 2? We're gonna get into the whole changing of the guard. We're gonna I don't know who they're gonna replace him with. We'll get to that. That should be fun. And then the new World Economic Forum director. And could he be worse, in fact, than Klaus Schwab, who was the cartoonish Bond villain? Probably more like Dr. Evil from Austin Powers. But he stepped down from the World Economic Forum board. He was also 88 years old. What a coincidence. That was a 55-year leadership tenure that's transformed a small European business meeting into the premier global gathering of elites. And he decided to step down with immediate effect. It's a long time. The announcement represents a significant turning point for the organization that had become synonymous with the annual Davos gathering of the world's wealthy elites, famous and politically powerful, trying to come together and how much they could help humanity or control humanity, which seems to be more the case. It's a bizarre group of super elites, but now they're going to, we're out with Klaus, and now it looks like Vice Chairman Peter Brabeck-Litmath. I don't know how to pronounce that. I have not heard the video. I've just only seen it on Twitter or in articles. So I have not heard his name said out loud. Will serve as the interim board chairman while a search committee identifies a permanent replacement. I don't know how much effect they have. They have their Davos meeting, and they do buy off politicians. I think Canada got hit pretty hard. You got to watch these guys. It's like unelected bureaucrats meddling around, managing humanity from behind the scenes, pulling puppet strings of their controlled politicians through whatever country they're trying to hold influence in. So always up to no good. And here he is, Peter Brabeck-Litmath, former CEO of Nestle, who famously stated in 2017 that humans have no right to access free water. Wow, great pick. He sounds like a great humanitarian. Yeah, hey, Jips, Liberty says the new guy that got to replace him does not look human at all. I'll take alien and a shitty rubber mask for 2,000, Alex. That would be a bold move. Yeah, something does not look right. He looks like another James Bond villain, larger than life. And in fact, I also asked Grok about this dude. So what can you tell me about this guy, the new WEF director? Could you compile, some pros and cons? So he's an Austrian businessman, not the permanent director, but is a front runner. And let's see, yes, he focused mostly known for being the CEO of Nestle, which is a huge corporation. I think we tend to kind of think of it as chocolate or something. It's not, but it's a huge like food empire in Europe, I believe, mostly. But it's also developing countries' water resource management. That's right, because they were under fire because they were like bottling up. This is like an old conspiracy theory show with Jesse Ventura, and they were like actually gathering water out of the Great Lakes. I know this sounds like crazy, but then they were like somehow shipping that overseas. So they were taking fresh water out of America, shipping it overseas, and then bottling it and selling it back to us. Something really bizarre and kind of sinister. Some weird stuff happening there. But I guess this is, why should we be surprised from the World Economic Forum? These are the elitists that want to micromanage society. So the implications for humanity, whether it's good or bad, is it's for, at least according to Grok, it's complex and depends on perspective. Yeah, so are they philanthropists or eugenicists? And perhaps there's a point to needing management, but not these monsters. We shall see. Yeah, the big con here is from 2005, is whether he was questioning water. Is water a human right? That sparked outrage, raising concerns about prioritizing profit over basic needs. I don't know what they were behind. Was it? I think they have their own water. I forget which company it was, but anyway, yeah, they prefer if you just bought it from them. Oversaw practices like aggressive baby formula marketing in low-income countries and excessive water extraction. That was probably with the Great Lakes. I should expand on that. Anyway, yeah, big corporate guy, elite. Oh, I said, speaking of keeping an eye on the announcements, what's the deal with Peter's eye? Is he a transhumanist sporting some cybernetic implant? Because that does not look right. In Gypsy called it. Yeah, he does not look human. There's something, it's like a cybernetic attachment. And you wonder, because a lot of these people at these high levels, they're into transhumanism. They would think nothing of just biological enhancements and merging humans with artificial intelligence, which is a bit terrifying. That sounds like it would go bad. And then Grok said the speculation about his eye seems to stem from online chatter, particularly on platforms like X, where all the weirdo conspiracy guys hang out. Okay, he didn't say that specifically. But does he have an eye condition or a cybernetic implant? Let's see. It says there's no verified evidence or credible reports indicating that he has an implant or an unusual eye condition. But it says that they're visual observations. Some photos may show an eye that appears different due to lighting or a medical condition, but they don't specify. Something to do with different colored irises. Okay. Yeah, it fits the World Economic Forum's futurist image because it's on emerging tech with AI, biotech. Feels like it could be embracing transhumanist enhancements, but it's more narrative than fact. So the established narrative ignores these rumors. And yes, Grok is just saying he's just a guy with a long corporate career and maybe an eye that caught someone's attention. Well, okay, well that settles it, at least for now. David Icke, though, also very critical. He says it's all part of the Great Reset as one stage of control is replaced by another far more extreme, run almost entirely by AI. So David seems to think that no matter what, we're all just kind of screwed somehow. And that Trump and Elon and everybody's working against us, and maybe he's right. Smart guy. So let's get to this tweet. Someone's called Shipwreck is saying Pope Francis dies, and then Klaus Schwab steps down, and then Trump posts this, that the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but rather by those who watch them without doing anything to stop them. It's like an old Jefferson quote, if I'm thinking of the right one. It's the good men that do nothing. Anyway, I don't want to butcher that quote any further. But David Icke seems to believe that Trump is fundamental to this whole Great Reset, where they're just going to try to run everything by AI, setting up some paradigm designed to make people believe they are all winning. And when that's dismantled, all that's happening is the old status quo being replaced by a new one, while those who would formerly have pushed back on AI control instead punch the air and cheer. The whole thing is a gigantic perceptual magic trick, which the hijacked alternative media is falling for like toddlers in a play school. Okay, so I guess that fits me. Is believing that Trump and Elon are naively believing that they're on our side, that they're trying to take down the deep state, the World Economic Forum, and all of these unelected bureaucrat elitists trying to micromanage our lives. But hey, what do I know? Again, David Icke is a smart guy. Maybe he's got it figured out, and it's all a trap no matter what. Hey, Christian, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome. Yeah, well, it should be a very interesting future then, as we try to figure all this out in real time. Is it all a trap? Does it matter? But a lot of people call, David Icke out and say, well, what is the solution? If Trump's the bad guy and we knew that Biden, Kamala were bad, and the world then who do we turn to? Who is the leadership that gets us out of this mess? You could say Jesus, but David Icke is not a believer in Christianity either. So I don't know. I don't think people are going to get behind David Icke either. Man, we're really screwed. It's the end of our civilization. I'm here for it. This is going to be fun to watch the epic shit show unravel somehow. Or do we pull it out somehow? Or maybe Trump is the great savior. I don't know. I will be here covering it because what else am I going to do? This historic time to be alive. But, okay. I don't know if I've got anything else to add on that. We're just gonna have to wait and see. I'm liking the. I really like the grok and the AI and the possibilities there, but yeah, this definitely could be used against us. Christian saying doesn't trust David Icke. He seems sincere, but he's gone a lot bitter over the last couple of years, and he seems to be very mad that people are falling for, Donald Trump is, misleading everybody, and it's all staged. And he hasn't debated anybody. He hasn't really sat down with an Alex Jones or some of the other more prominent people just to, it's good just to have that conversation and game plan about what's going to be taking place going ahead into the future. Followed David Icke for a long time, but I've kind of fallen away from some of the wackier theories, stayed a little more grounded over the last 10 or 15 years. But man, you're seeing all this stuff. The world is getting a lot more strange, especially with the emergence of AI. And it'll be interesting to see how the old guard reacts, the old New World Order, and so many of these major players falling away. Whether it's Schwab or we'll see Kissinger went down, David Rockefeller, Zbigniew Brzezinski. A lot of the old dinosaurs have passed on. We still got George Soros, though. Man, he's still meddling around. I don't know. Well, it'll be interesting as we continue to battle for the future of humanity. Okay, well, perhaps we should move on. I don't know if I have anything else to add to that. So, legacy of Pope Francis, is Catholic Church confusion? Yeah, I guess so. Can't really find anything totally positive or negative. Controversial character, moved on. New World Economic Forum director, could be worse than Schwab. Certainly could. Especially if he's some kind of wacky transhumanist. And he's got cybernetic implants and he's no longer human. But I don't know, how much influence do they have anymore? They can still buy up politicians, I suppose, but they've been exposed in a big way over the years. All right, so if Iran dismands their nuclear weapons, will Israel follow suit? So I guess some good news here is that things didn't escalate with Iran and Israel, although it is happening. And I guess Trump has chosen to go to the negotiation table over Israeli airstrikes and key Iran policy decision. This is something that could end the world quickly if it escalates. So, one of these things that's odd. We don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. That would it threatens people in the region, perhaps, potentially. But it's also kind of this secret that Israel also has. They've had nuclear weapons for a long time. And it looks like Netanyahu basically admitted it. It's kind of an open secret. And now I guess they were called out on it, saying, well, if it's only fair, if Iran is supposed to abandon its nuclear program, will Israel do the same? To which their spokesperson launched into a tirade over a pointed question. That was asked by a Russian reporter. Seems fair on the surface.
If Iran is expected to abandon its nuclear program, is Israel ready to do the same? Because assuming Iran disarms, Israel would remain the only country in the region with potential nuclear capabilities. Thank you.
Okay, so as the Foreign Minister Gideon Saar said, is the most important thing is the objective. Iran cannot have nuclear weapon, and this is what's in front of us. We understand it's not just a threat to Israel, but to the entire world.
Okay, so she dodges the question, number one, but number two, she didn't deny that Israel had nuclear weapons. I'm not saying they don't deserve them. I've been just saying is it fair? Because technically they're not supposed to have. So it'd be an easier point of conflict, to end the conflict if we say, okay, well, Iran says, all right, we're not going to do the nuclear programs as long as Israel gets rid of theirs first. Or is it a double standard and Israel is allowed to have it? I don't know. Who do you trust more with their hands on their fingers on the red button? The Ayatollah, the fundamentalist freak show of Iran? Or do we trust a crazy lunatic like Bibi? I don't know. I guess I'd feel better if everybody was just disarmed with all of that. I don't know. It's fair to bring up at least. I don't know. I just want us to stay out of this thing completely. I don't want anybody shooting anything. No escalations. It's going to be bad for everybody on the planet. Everyone's going to have to be forced to take sides. Totally not worth it. I would just disarm them all. I don't know. So I guess she claimed Iran is bringing states like Syria, Iraq, and Yemen to the verge of starvation, but without mentioning at all that Israel's active blockade starving people of Gaza. These people just live in a weird reality. I don't get it. And I do not want to pick sides on this. I'm not going there. I'm on the side of truth and facts. It's getting weird. All right, so Trump chooses the negotiation table. That's a good thing because somebody like Netanyahu's going to get over his skis, overreact, do something stupid, and then try to drag the United States into a conflict that he started. I don't like that either. So, Israel plans included a commando raids and airstrikes on Iran's nuclear sites. Yeah, I'm sure that'll go well. Yeah, it's easy when you can pick that fight, and then you get to depend on the United States to come in, help you out. U.S. officials have warned an attack could trigger a wider regional war. Yeah, you think? With no clear exit strategy. Absolutely. And after Iraq and Afghanistan, no, I do not want anything to do with Iran. This is Israel's issues, not ours. Trump's decision reflects rare caution. Well, that's great. This is why we elected him, not to get involved in any more foreign wars. People have criticized Trump as perhaps being influenced too much by Israel. And hopefully that's not the case. And interesting that he defied, which something that could have gone badly. The rejected plan. Yeah, always got to try for the peace first. Unless nobody's above that, including Bibi. And let's see. Yeah, Israel's about to empty Gaza. This is opinion. Conducting the largest campaign of ethnic cleansing since World War II. So they blocked humanitarian aid into Gaza, cut off electricity, so that the last water desalination plant no longer functions. Israeli military has seized half of the territory. Gaza is 25 miles long and 4 to 5 miles wide, and placed 2/3 of Gaza under displacement orders and had put up no-go zones. And it's completely encircled by Israeli troops. And that Israel will intensify the war against Hamas and use all military and civilian pressure against Gaza. So, not good. This is not going to help anything. No reason to keep escalating things. Hopefully they can get the hostages out of there, and hopefully they can get rid of these Hamas terrorists. But also might want to see Bibi step down. Perhaps if there's a way to get that all to function. Everybody disarms, and then some of these top leaders have to step down. Maybe that could change something. I don't know. What a shit show, which is why we don't want to get involved in that. I think at some point we have to reevaluate our alliance with Israel, at least if they are being led by Bibi. Well, I don't know how they were going to fix that mess. Okay, and then a lot of people criticizing this. It's crazy and evil to support Israel's atrocities because you think God wants you to. It's another thing that's a little bit odd with their Christian support here in the United States that will just do anything and everything to protect Israel, even though I don't think they would be treated so nice if they actually lived there themselves. So why are we going all out to do so much to protect this country. I don't understand it. So that's going to be something that's going to take a while to unravel, but we'll see how that develops. What a mess. Again. Okay, well. What else do I have on that? Yeah, I'm not going to get into any further on this. I'm so sick of talking about Israel, first of all. But it's still in the news. That's also interesting. Caitlin Johnstone is very critical of the Israeli government. We'll call it that because it's don't want to confuse the religion per se with the nation. Saying most Zionists or Christians are hoping all Jewish people return to Israel so that Jesus will return. And then Jewish people get to either repent and convert to Christianity or go to hell. So what that means in a very real and quantifiable way, most Zionists are actual anti-Semites. This is where it starts getting weird. Because this is like all biblical prophecy about the second coming. But then, I don't know. So do people have to convert? The Jewish people are going to have to repent to Jesus and convert to Christianity, or they're going to go to hell. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Are they ending their own religion if that happens? I don't know. Then you start getting into this isn't biblical Israel. It's maybe not even the same group of people. But, my God, it has been a perpetual problem for decades, and I don't know when it's going to go away. And it could lead to the end of everybody's civilization if we can't keep it under control. Okay, let's take a look. I got a cool video here about the divide and conquer. It's about who is shaking the jar. If you put 100 red ants and 100 black ants into a jar.
If you put 100 black ants and 100 red ants in a jar, nothing will happen. But if you shake the jar, the ants start killing each other. The red ants consider the black ants their enemies, and the black ants consider the red ants their enemies. But the true enemy is the one shaking the jar. The same thing happens in our society. The left versus the right, poor versus rich, young versus old, women versus men. Before we start fighting each other, we need to ask ourselves, who is shaking the jar? If you put 100...
Yeah, it's kind of how they control big populations with the elites. It's constantly divide and conquer. All right, and now... And if they can't divide and conquer, they're going to go and censor you. Interesting tweet here from Mike Cernovich, because this Israel thing has been going like crazy. And the neocons, they really want to start something up. And they've lost the debate. It's really hard to take the Israel side. You can, with the atrocities that are happening over there. And they can't have a reasonable debate about it, say Joe Rogan. So now they're going to try to shut it down so that they can control the argument again. What's interesting, this Douglas Murray's been out prominently, written the book on neoconservatism, even though he was 25, I guess, was a military-age guy. Didn't want to get involved, but he certainly wants everybody else to go involve themselves in foreign conflicts. Got smashed in a debate and exposed by comic Dave Smith on Rogan. He went out and wrote a op-ed on the New York Post. Want to shut down anybody who's not a expert. So they're still going to be pushing for it. Anywho, hopefully, okay, I'm done. I'm done talking about Israel for the day. I think, unless we get brought back into it, it's time to get to some of the other topics. Okay, let's get we're back. We're getting back to the Maryland man again. This story is still going on. Democrats, did they make a big mistake embracing the Maryland man? They're still supporting it. Here it is. Why is the Maryland senator defending an MS-13 gangbanger while their state is falling apart? Yeah, good question. They thought they had a win here. They could find something, they could rally the people on their side. They could point out that Trump was doing horrible things to nice people, trying to set some new precedent for deporting innocent Americans. And it turned out that this guy, Abrego Garcia, from El Salvador, lived in Maryland. And that is kind of going back and forth. Is he MS-13 or not? Was it administrative error that they sent him to the Supermax in El Salvador? And they can correct the error. But it turns out, yeah, he's actually got it's a bit of an asshole. He was beating his wife, maybe perhaps involved in human smuggling. Perhaps, got what he deserved. I don't know if that Supermax is quite necessary, but I don't exactly know what he's all done. But the one thing is that you can't really argue that he should be brought back in some capacity because he was never a citizen here. And he's not in the same situation he was when he tried to get asylum. But then you've got this spectacle of Senator Chris Van Hollen from Maryland trying to fly to El Salvador to, like, on the taxpayers' dime to rescue this Salvadoran national. Totally insane. And they actually did get him out of prison, do this photo op where he got to hang out and have pupusas and margaritas. Very strange. So why doesn't he care more about his own constituents that live in the state? It's a good question. So I think they can win on something and get back at Trump. Trump made this photo op showing that this guy was in fact MS-13, at least according to his hand tattoos. But even though we're not quite sure. Still not sure. Some people are saying this is all photo op. I don't know. But what is clear is that he's not the innocent, poor little Maryland man that he should be. Maybe he shouldn't be in the CCOT. Maybe he'll get to go live as a free man in El Salvador and be reunited with his family, and that's all good. But yes, this was a bad issue for the Democrats to get in on. No, they could have. If he was totally innocent, they could have absolutely been used this against Trump. But it's backfired once again. Let's listen to a clip here from Scott Jennings calling this out.
Yeah, listening to Van Hollen explain all this, like if you're explaining how you came to be sipping margaritas with an MS-13 gangbanger who's lived illegally in the United States for 14 years before he was finally deported, you're losing, okay? You're losing. You're losing optically, you're losing politically, and I assume the people of Maryland are wondering, why doesn't this guy ever work as hard for us as he does for this guy who's down in El Salvador, which, by the way, is where he's from in the first place? Look, macro view for me, the American people elected Donald Trump to deport illegal aliens. They especially elected him to deport people who are affiliated with very violent transnational gangs that we now characterize as terrorist organizations. I think he's doing his job, and I think the American people are behind him, and I think the Democrats like Van Hollen look ridiculous standing up for him more than they stand up for the people of the United States of America who are actually citizens of this country.
Yeah. Backfired spectacularly again. So good on Scott calling that out. And interesting that Tim Pool got to call this out too, as he was in the White House media room today talking about this very thing. Let's roll this clip.
Your rest. All right, let's get to it. We have an individual in our new media seat today. His name is Tim Pool. He's a political commentator and a media entrepreneur with millions of followers, a very big platform. Currently hosts Timcast IRL, a daily news and discussions show, and The Culture War, a weekly podcast exploring cultural and political issues. His programs feature in-depth conversations on topics such as free speech, censorship, identity politics, and societal change, often engaging with a diverse range of guests. He's in Washington today because we are also hosting a local media row across the street in the Eisenhower building, which is a testament to our commitment to bring new voices into the White House to cover the president and this administration. So Tim, why don't you kick us off today?
Yes, many of the news organizations that are represented in this room have marched in lockstep on false narratives, such as the Very Fine People hoax, the Covington smear, and now what's being called the Maryland Man hoax, where an MS-13 gang member adjudicated by 2 different judges, I believe, is just simply being referred to as a Maryland man over and over again. Now, in an effort from the White House to expand access to new companies, you've created this new media seat. So I'm wondering if you can comment on, following this expansion, you've had numerous outlets disparage the companies that you've had sit here, as well as the reporters. I'm wondering if you could comment on that unprofessional behavior, as well as elaborate if there's any plans to expand access to new companies.
Sure. Well, we start.
Good, yeah. Roasting all those corporate hacks in that very room that have been perpetuating this hoax. No, I'm sometimes critical of Tim Pool. He did a great job there, nailing that.
Certainly welcome diverse viewpoints in this room, which is one of the reasons we have you in here, and there's many new faces in this room in comparison to the previous administration.
And awesome for the Trump administration to allow new voices in there, not let those old guards try to dominate all the conversation and try to push out the indie media. That was something that's badly needed. And Tim was right. Yeah, a lot of them, they're all on lockstep with just the latest media hoax. It's ridiculous.
Administrations. We want to welcome all viewpoints into this room. We welcome unbiased journalists who really care about the truth and the facts and the accuracy. And you rightfully pointed out the Maryland Man story, which I, from this podium, when The Atlantic published it on that very first day, I came to this podium and said, this is wrong. The press in this room have this story wrong. And we have seen more and more evidence come to the table that we have had all along. We were always right. The president was always on the right side of this issue to deport this illegal criminal from our community. And it is despicable to see the media continue to refer to this individual as someone who is just a peaceful man living his life in Maryland. This was and always has been an illegal criminal, an MS-13 gang member, and a designated foreign terrorist. And the administration maintains our position to deport these individuals from our community. So thank you for being here, Tim.
Wow. Okay. Well, there's an emphatic correction of the record there on the Maryland Man. And, you know, I did try to give it the benefit of the doubt on that one. But then, once it became clear that he was MS-13, that he had issues with his wife, and that he looks like involved in human trafficking when he was in Tennessee, I can't really defend it anymore. I don't know why they still are. Guess they're just going to try to double down. But it didn't work out so well. And they're being mocked ruthlessly with these memes on Twitter. The Dems 13 actually fits pretty nicely. Might as well. They seem to care more about the illegal alien gangbangers than they do about their own Americans. So these are some good AI clips here. Yeah, flash your sign. We don't want to play any music that's going to get flagged. There they are. Dems 13. All right. Well, great job. Yeah, the fun with AI. And perhaps there's an ulterior motive. Could say the left's sudden crusade for due process is just a political smokescreen to defend mass migration. And yeah, that's great. His crusade to go due process. Like, had this guy been actually completely innocent, then this would be a bad deal. And they could have scored some points politically and dunked on Trump, but did not work. And yeah, perhaps they're going to try to, they know that they don't want to ship any more of these people out because these are their future voters. So they make them look good, but they can't control the narrative like they used to. Not even in the White House press room, apparently. So, very interesting. In fact, they are covering it up when it gets mentioned. They were busted on MSNBC cutting away as Trump started listing the facts about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They're not interested in reporting facts, only the talking points. They care about the narrative, the story, where they use a few of the facts and then don't use the rest. So, just so that they can frame it a certain way for their audience, and they keep getting away with this stuff.
In 2019, Garcia was issued a deportation order. Two separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13, which is a gang that may be even worse.
We've been watching President Donald Trump there swearing in.
Yeah, so as he's going through his bullet points and saying these are all the reasons why the Democrats got this one wrong. Yes, maybe it was an administrative error. Maybe he shouldn't have gone in that first flight. But the facts remain that two judges called him MS-13 and he was involved in human trafficking.
The new
and is not supposed to be here and is not an American citizen.
Administrator of the CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, Dr. Mehmet Oz, during this conversation.
Yeah, so weird how she has got to flip that, talk over it, and then they've got to change it. So now people can't get the facts on those networks. So they're in the dark. It's weird. Weird how things work. Weird how things have changed. Democrats used to criticize Fox for doing that very thing in the 2000s, which they did. And now they do it to them when they're oblivious. So it's very deceptive, the way that they hide information from people. Okay, well, let's move on. I got a few more lightning round. So where did we leave off? Dems made a big mistake embracing the Maryland man. Yeah, I guess they were desperate. They had to do something. I mean, their approval rating's like 20%. I mean, they really can't go much lower. Might as well go for broke. They thought you had a winning hand. Went all in. Lost again. Okay. Well, they kind of did all of this to themselves. Well, we'll move on to the next one. This is almost like three parts to kind of one bigger story just about illegal immigration. So, do Americans deserve reparations from illegal immigration? It's an interesting point put out by Stephen Miller. Let's check this one out. Trump's deputy chief of staff says Americans deserve reparations for illegal immigration. He went on, he's in an interview with Newsmax, talking about the failures of these policies. Let's check it out. We'll go straight to the source here.
And the optics of it are just unbelievable. Sheldon Whitehouse is talking about seeking damages.
Yeah, as we see this ridiculous display once again with Abrego Garcia meeting with a senator in El Salvador, having apps and margaritas and coffee there.
From the government for Abrego Garcia. He's talking about $1 million a day. He wants to fine the U.S. government for the deportation of an illegal alien who has been found in a couple different instances to be an MS-13 gang member. What on earth could possibly...
Where are the damages for Americans?
Exactly.
I don't know how much time I have here, but I mean, for the love of God, where are the damages for Americans? Where do I even begin? Where do I even start? We used to have a functioning public school system in this country. Then we had open borders. Now our schools are in chaos and disarray. We need hundreds of translators. Nobody's learning how to read or write. An entire generation of Americans, multiple generations, in fact, have been robbed of educational opportunities. Entire cities. Look at Los Angeles. Once a paradise of safety, security, and prosperity. Entire neighborhoods occupied and controlled by foreign gangs. Where do all the residents who've been displaced, who've been forced out of Los Angeles, where do they go to get their reparations? And then what about the victims of fentanyl poisoning brought in by Democrats' open border? Hundreds of thousands of moms and dads whose kids are dead and buried in the ground. Where do they go to get their reparations from the government? And then all the women who have been raped, who've been beaten, who've been murdered, all the dads who've been shot dead and aren't home, all the police officers who've been slain by illegal aliens in ambush attacks in the line of duty. Where do any of these people go? Where do any of their families go to get reparations? Or the 500,000 children that Joe Biden trafficked across the southern border and put into the hands of unvetted so-called sponsors? Do you know how many stories I could tell you of children that were trafficked across the border and raped because of the policies of Joe Biden? There aren't enough volumes that could fit into a library to calculate the carnage that has been inflicted by the Democrat Party's policy of open borders. We can spend the rest of our lives trying to document those harms. Where does our whole country go to get repaid for all of the wealth, all of the prosperity and security that has been stolen from us by decades of uncontrolled illegal mass migration? Because we all deserve reparations for what has been stolen from us. It is a tragedy that defies our ability to even describe it.
Preach, brother.
Wow. So there we go. Stephen Miller on fire, suggesting reparations, but not the way we think of it as, for all the damage the Democrats inflicted on us. So I don't know where that, this disastrous policy is just desperately like trying to smuggle voters in, I guess. But it was crazy what they did during the Biden administration, and they need to hold people accountable for that. Looking at Mayorkas, Biden, and so many. It's the policy they wanted. Damage. And then how about George Soros? I don't know if they can calculate all of it. But interesting point put up there. Okay. I think that's it on that one. Got, here's one. How about birthright citizenship being the biggest scam in U.S. history? So it didn't end there for Stephen Miller. He did another interview outside talking about that. Said it's the biggest, costliest scam in financial history, and explained how foreign nationals game the system. So let's check out another clip. This is also on Newsmax. Looks like a different.
Birthright citizenship is the biggest, costliest scam in financial history. An illegal alien can come here 9 months pregnant or on a tourist visa, 9 months pregnant, have a baby. That baby is then declared an automatic citizen, which then entitles the entire family to come here and live here, and every one of them can get welfare. Yes, they can get unlimited welfare, applying as the custodian of this citizen, so-called child.
That's staggering. This goes above and beyond where I thought it was. I mean, it's bad enough when you just have somebody who's pregnant, they have a kid, and all of a sudden, like, oh, it gets citizen rights. But I didn't know they could bring their whole family in, and there's like little tax loopholes. Claim it as a custodian or whatever, a dependent. Who knows how they do it, how they word it. They could bring their whole family in. That's just because they're born here. And yeah, it was a loophole and it was exploited. And
the biggest financial ripoff of Americans in history, not to mention the fact that it is the #1 magnet for illegal immigration and invasion, and that is used by foreign governments to conduct espionage against the United States. Because now, see, we can keep out a foreign spy who has a visa, who's trying to get permission to board an airplane. But what happens when a foreign government uses this ridiculous birthright scam in order to create automatic citizens who then grow up as assets of a foreign government?
Yeah, and I remember hearing just about some of these conspiracy things. I don't know, it was like probably Alex Jones or something talking about, there's pregnant Chinese women, coming over to America. They have birth, and then their kids get full citizenship. So I wonder if they could be turned into CCP spies. I never considered that angle, but he certainly makes a case here. So no other country in the world would ever do something like this. This is like our own just generosity. But then it was taken advantage of, exploited, and now it needs to stop. So is it the greatest scam? I don't know if I go that far, but this is alarming. Even more so than I would have thought. So good on Stephen for pointing this one out. We'll let it continue.
So it's a major national security threat. The 14th Amendment, the provisions in question were ratified for the children of freed slaves. You can go read the minutes of the debate. They were talking about the children of freed slaves after the Civil War.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
The idea that this was meant to provide illegal alien children with automatic citizenship. Do you really think that in the 19th century, 3/4 of states all got together to pass an amendment to say that people that Congress has forbidden from entering here can have automatic children citizens? I mean, the idea is so far beyond even the outer limits of imagination. No human being who suggests it should be taken seriously.
Okay, well, good stuff. Stephen Miller, bringing the fire. Okay, well, interesting. I think that's all I've got on that one. Lightning round, where we at? Got about a minute and hour and 6 minutes into it. I've got a couple other quick topics, and we'll call it a day. How about being liberal and being woke? Are they two different things? Again, you got to give kudos to Bill Maher for having some real conversations with people. Contrast that with Larry David, who was blasting Bill Maher. That was over the top. Yeah, the leftists don't want to come to the table and talk anymore. They just want to sit in their echo chambers and push everybody out of it. And then they start going insane in their own bubble, believing their own BS, that their opposition are all evil fascists. So Bill Maher telling Charlie Kirk, so he had the big White House meeting with Trump. And now he's meeting with, prominent people on the other side. They're very different from him politically and philosophically, but that makes for interesting conversation. So they, let's see, it kicked off with a sharp joke from Kirk, who warned Maher that the purple-haired jihadis would be coming for him next. But Maher said, they want to kill me just as bad. He explained they hate their own apostates more. Yeah, they really hate. They've turned into a full-blown cult. And if you criticize them or differ from them on the issues, they really do not like you. Maher jokingly said, he's supposed to get on a short bus to Crazy Town with them, and I won't. And good for him making a stand. So many of us have. We stood our ground. I don't think I'm that terribly different than I was 20 years ago when I was more. I still kind of think I lean left, but not to be confused with these extreme leftists and their woke ideology. So that's where Maher began to draw a clear line between classical liberal values and what he called the woke ideology of the Democratic Party. Says liberal and woke are two completely different things, and they are very much the opposite. So Maher explained liberalism as, hey, let's live in a colorblind society. That's the goal. The woke's goal is we see race everywhere. So, anyway, says you got off the F train, you fell asleep, and you got off 20 stops too far. Don't blame me for that. But it's good. You got to give Maher credit for having the balls to speak out against his own party of sorts. As many people have distanced themselves. It's not just him and Jon Stewart as the lone voices of reason. So many that have left, like Elon Musk or Joe Rogan or Russell Brand or Jimmy Dore, Tim Pool, myself, maybe. So many that have watched the left lose their minds. Anyway, and then they got on the subject of, just like the weird stuff like biological males competing in women's sports, all of these crazy issues. Democrats have lost it. They got a lot of work to do. It's got to reinvent themselves. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know where they're going to get their new leadership. They are really lost right now. And with a 20% approval rating, I don't see how they're... And then with sending so many of their potential voters and deporting them out of the country, I don't know what they're going to do to survive. Very curious. But Larry David attacked Bill Maher. That's too bad. Like this big Seinfeld fan back in the day. I've probably only seen a dozen episodes or so of Curb Your Enthusiasm. That was a funny show. But I didn't have HBO much, so I didn't really see much of it. He's always a funny guy, but he's gone off the rails and attacked Bill Maher for meeting with Trump. And he wrote an article in the New York Times called My Dinner with Adolf. Just bizarre. So is the modern left doing what it does best, weaponizing public shame to keep others in line? It's exactly what, not exactly, but that's what Bill Maher was alluding to. His own people are more critical of him, trying to keep them in line. So the message of this is not, well, it's probably the Scott Jennings clip. Let's talk about this. This quick clip here on CNN as he mentions Larry David's new op-ed.
And the message of this is not to, because Bill Maher, first of all, I totally agree. He's totally in the right to do it. And I loved his monologue. Even though I disagree with most everything he believes politically, he was right to do this and he was right to speak out about it. But this isn't about that dinner. It's about the next one, because this is the modern left. It's an attempt always to intimidate people into not ever doing it again. It's to silence yourselves or we'll do it for you. That's the purpose of this op-ed, so that the next comedian or the next person on the American left chooses not to speak to Donald Trump. This is all an effort to get people not to do what you just said, which is to talk to each other and our political leaders. And the message of...
Yeah, so shame on Larry David. I thought he might be better than that, but he's certainly not. Given in, he's emerged as a leader in this woke insanity. But if he's so smart and he's figured it out, why doesn't he have a conversation with Trump too? Or Bill Maher or somebody on the other side? They've lost the plot. They're losing. So now they continue to stick to their bubble, which is increasingly getting smaller and more insane. Okay, yeah, My Dinner with Adolf, really? That's how much they've lost it. They're starting to really, that's what happens when you don't have any pushback and you don't get to, talk to rational-minded people, you get completely out of control and unhinged like that. Weird. Speaking of unhinged, I just have what is this little fun story on the modern left and a transgender activist breaking character in an argument with Nancy Mace. A little moment of zen, I suppose. Here we go.
Does your husband call you babe? I'm not married. Okay, so even better. I don't care. Okay, so I would like for you to apologize because that is derogatory, and second of all... Is tranny derogatory to you?
Well, yeah. Of course the fuck it is.
Tranny. Yeah, tranny. If that's derogatory,
so it might be derogatory, but it just shows like the mental illness and like you got to play like imagination land. Like this is a person who is completely, pretending to be something they're not. And they're putting on this whole fake act, doing an effeminate voice, pretending she needs an apology, but then it's clearly like this is somebody who might be mentally disturbed. Roll this again. Maybe. No, it's going to spin on me now. Oh, man, what happened to the video? Did they pull it? Oh, here we go.
Does your husband call you babe?
I'm not married.
Okay, so even better.
I don't care.
Okay, so I would like for you to apologize because that is derogatory and second of all.
Is tranny derogatory to you?
Well, now.
Yeah.
Of course the fuck it is.
Tranny. Yeah, tranny. If that's derogatory, good.
Okay, yeah, it's the modern unhinged left. It's a woke cult. All right, I think that's all I've got on that. All right. That's the difference between being liberal and being woke. And finally, last issue is, should we have a new investigation into 9/11? Interesting video popped up from Ron Johnson here, saying there's 9/11 hearings, and they're being planned, and they're questioning the controlled demolition of Building 7. That's the big one. That's the smoking gun. That's the one that's really hard to explain. How did it fall? A lot of people just don't talk about it. A lot of people aren't even aware of it. It's a massive building. It pales in size compared to the two Twin Towers. But it's a major one that didn't seem to fall in the way you would think. Like if it was perhaps a controlled demolition, I don't know. But hey, Ron Johnson mentioned it. That's a pretty big deal from a sitting senator. So let's check out this clip.
What would you like to know?
Sounds like I've got some landscaping going through my area, so it'd be a good time to cut the show.
About September 11th, the official story there, Senator.
Well, start with Building 7. Again, I don't know that you can find structural engineers other than the ones that have the corrupt investigation inside NIST that would say that that thing didn't come down in any other way than a controlled demolition. I mean, you just look at that. You talk about molten steel. Again, you listen to the documentary Bravo 7. There's an awful lot of questions. Who ordered the removal and then destruction of all that evidence? Totally contrary to any other firefighting investigation procedures. I mean, who ordered that? Who was in charge? I think there's some basic information. Where's all the documentation from the NIST investigation? No, there are a host of questions that I want, and I will be asking, quite honestly, now that my eyes have been opened up. I've talked to former Congressman Kurt Weldon now. I will work with him to expose what he's willing to expose as well.
Wow, so we may...
Okay, well, I think I'm going to cut it right there. We'll get the idea. So that's super cool. But I mean, it's not like we're getting a lot of answers for anything yet. As far as Pam Bondi goes, we're still waiting on the Epstein stuff. They've released a lot more JFK files, but still not enough for us to put a complete puzzle together, a complete picture with the puzzle pieces that they've allowed us to see. Hey, Kenneth, good to see you. Bravo 7, followed by Boot 8. Perhaps. But I would like to get to the bottom of that one. I think we all would. That's been going on a long time. That's a lot of where this journey started for me, was back in 9/11. Changed the whole world. And I was always suspicious of it from the very beginning. I never bought the official story. And it's still being covered up. There's still a lot of details. Yeah, we haven't gotten all the information from JFK or RFK or MLK or Epstein or the Trump assassinations. There's so much. So they're working on a lot of it. They're talking a big game. They're holding some hearings. Okay, well, that's all good. Hopefully we'll get all the answers in the next few years. Probably the best chance we have in our lifetime so far. We're ever going to put an end to these mysteries. And that changed everything. Totally changed our trajectory. Not only, this JFK assassination, but then 9/11, this whole new era of the endless war on terror and war, Patriot Act. All started there, and we never got all the answers. Weren't allowed to talk about it. They tried to cover that up. Building 7 was always the one they didn't want you to dig in too far on, because it never didn't line up with the rest. Not that I'm an engineer, but I'll let the engineers decide. So, that would be cool. 9/11. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, I guess we all deserve those answers at some point, perhaps. But yeah, many people don't want us to know. We figure out we went into war for the wrong reasons, and that there might have been, to some extent, an inside job. But I guess there's only one way to find out, and that's to run these hearings. So good on Senator Johnson. And we'll see if that develops into anything. I don't know. But what I do know is it's probably my time to go. So great to see you, Christian, Kenneth, Chips Liberty, anybody out listening, lurking behind the scenes, listening in replay, what have you. Good to see you guys. Love you guys. And we'll do it all again next time. Go Thursday. We'll see what other crazy stories the news brings. And I will be on tonight for Toxically Masculine Tuesday. That'll be on at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Mike Barra, Dr. Brooks Agnew, and Trail Boss Steve Doran. Sure, we'll get into some interesting issues at that time as well. We always do. Maybe perhaps the best round table on the net. You can decide. Hope to see you guys there. That's all I've got for now. Thank you again. I look forward to next time. But for now, I am out.